till that time the participants are joining. These are the keen participants, those who want to get knowledge on IPR.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So we are going to start the session. I request all the participants, please, if your mic is on unmute mode, please mute yourself. If possible, please start your cameras. So, first of all, my greatest salutation to Founder President Param Shraddheya Ma Radhadevi ji Goenka, who established this Bharatiya Seva Sadan and under that Srimati Radhadevi Goenka College for Women for the betterment of girl child. Honorable President and the President of Institutions Innovation Council, Shri Dilip Rajji Goenka sir, Honorable Principal Dr. Chalu Sheila Rumale Madam, Honorable Vice Principal Dr. Ambadas Ji Pandey sir, Honorable the resource person of today's national level seminar, Professor M. BETKAR sir, Principal Shri Kumaraswamy Mahavidyalaya, Hausa, all the faculty members, research scholars, and dear students, I, Dr. Rupa Gupta, on behalf of Institutions Innovation Council, IQAC, and Department of Library of Srimati Radhadevi Goenka College for Women, Akola, Maharashtra, welcome you in the national level webinar on IPR and intellectual property management for startup. So, dear all, as we all know that innovation and creativity always go in hand. So, everyone, we all have some creativity and innovative idea. So, for protecting that innovative and creative idea, IP is very important. For this purpose, we have organized this session. So without getting much more time, I request Honorable Principal Dr. Charu Sheila Rumale Madam, please speak some words in this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa. Good morning, one and all. Good morning, Dr. BETKAR sir.
Good morning.
Welcome in a webinar of IPR. Last 3 years, you cooperate our college. Thank you, sir, and welcome again. Continue, Rupa.
Thank you so much, madam. So now it's great and immense pleasure for me to introduce today's resource person, Honorable Dr. BETKAR sir, Principal in Shri Kumar. Having in Inter-University Research Festival Am I audible? I think sometime I was disconnected.
Yes, now
respected, yes, sir. Respected BETKAR sir is Best Teacher Award from Dream IAS Center Solapur. Sir has published more than international reputed journals. He has organized more than 1100 national and so, sir, we are very fortunate. We have such type of personality because your role is also invited as a keynote speaker from all over country for more than 300 speeches as an expert of IPR. Sir is also speaker at Singapore. Sir has published one book titled Simple Steps in SSR. Sir is also national level evaluator of NCERT Inspired Award. Sir, record holder, respected BETKAR sir is also Asia Book of Record holder. In the same way, India Book of Record holder. So, without getting much more time, it is my humble request to respected Dr. M.M. BETKAR sir. Please enhance audience. So, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, madam. I think I am audible. First of all, I would pay my respect to the Srimati Radhadevi Goenka, who is founder of this institute. This is the Bharatiya Shikshan Sanstha Srimati Radhadevi Goenka College for Women Akola, organizing Institutional Innovation Council Cell IIC, Internal Quality Assurance Cell IQAC, and Department of Library, jointly organizing this event of national level webinar on IPR and IP management for startup. President of this institute, respected Dheeraj Goenka sir, respected Principal Dr. Charushila Rumale madam, who just introduced this event, who introduced this as a convener Dr. A.S. Rupa Gupta madam, coordinator of the IQAC Dr. A. Sanjay Vite sir, and librarian Professor R.G. Baheti. The teachers, researchers, research scholars, those who are joined from this institute and out of this institute. I am also seeing our friend Sonu Kumar, who is joined from other than Maharashtra, and all the participants, those who are joined here. As respected madam said that last year also I have delivered the talk for this institution, and I am thankful to all for giving me opportunity second time for this institute. So this topic is related to our IPR and management of IPR. Every student should know, or every businessman or every commerce student should know what is the IPR and what is the startup. Students should think to give an innovative contribution after their education or in their education also. So this topic in this regard is important. For that, I would like to share what I am knowing about this to the next nearly 1 hour. If there is problem in slide or in audio, please inform me. The index of presentation is startup and IP management for startups. First of all, we will see definition of startup, and then we will go for the knowing what are the intellectual property rights, because these are related to the startups. What is startup? It is the entity working towards innovation as a development or improvement of product or process. It is the entity level, starting those who are starting some innovative things to develop or to improve the existing product. At the same time, wish to develop first time these services, or it is a scalable business model with a high potential of employment generation or wealth creation. So at the starting, startup may be a small industry, but it has a huge potential to grow in future and also to employment generation in future as a wealth. Before going to the IP management for the startup, let us see few definitions or few things related to IP, intellectual property. So what are the intellectual properties? On the screen you are seeing that one person is thinking, and that person is thinking to form an electric bulb. In second picture you are seeing that IP means that person have formed the bulb as an intellectual property. So first picture shows the definition of intellectual thinking, and second picture is the definition of intellectual property, because that intellectual property, as an example, as a bulb he has created. If such property is created, then the persons from the society try to stolen the knowledge, try to utilize the technology without the consent of a person, those who innovated. So at that time we have to exclude the others for using the technology without our consent. So at that time we get the right for creations of mind that are known as the intellectual property rights. We get the rights when we register our intellectual property in the proper way. This is related to our startup, so I am introducing this intellectual property for you. Intangible and tangible property are two groups of the intellectual properties. Intangible property is just thinking, which we cannot see from our eye. It is the intangible, and tangible property is the physical asset that we can touch to it. First intellectual property is the design. Let us see, one student or one person start to do the startup for creating a thing like a goggle or a chair or a bottle. So this startup gives, you have to think that about the design of that product. So how this product, design product, is supporting to intellectual property. So design is the intellectual property. If you are going to do one startup on such a product, that design can be registered as a intellectual property, which can boost you, which can give the right to use that design for your startup as a product. Secondly, copyright. What is copyright? Copyright is the right, intellectual property right, given to the media, which is written one, which is audio one, which is video one, or book one, or painting or creation. So how it is related to our startup? Since at the startup, if you start a business, if you want to start a service, then service is in the form of the text matter or app or any typed matter or a book or a audio or a video. So all these things, if you are using for your startup, they are having a copyright. So copyright and startup is related to like this. If you want to do one startup for an app, so you have to register that app as a copyright. So this is the relation of intellectual property and the copyright and the startup. Let us see the third intellectual property, that is the patent. What is patent? Patent is the statutory right granted to limited period of time in exchange of full disclosure of his invention, and it should be capable of industrial application. If you have innovative idea, if you have created a machine and it is innovative one, if you apply for the patent, then you get the patent for that if it is following the criteria of that patent. Then at the startup, if you do some innovative apparatus or equipment or a thing or any equipment that can be used as a patent, that patent gives you support to your startup. So that is the relation between the patent and startup. If we have patents with us on innovative machine, those who are not with other persons, then at that time this boosts our startup, this gives the energy our startup, this gives the venture to the capital venture to the startup. Now trademark. How trademark is related to our startup? It is the intellectual property. We are going to study the intellectual property management for our startup. So on screen you are seeing that trademarks, various trademarks, Parle-G, Airtel, Lokmat, Doordarshan, BMW and WhatsApp. These are the trademarks. If you want to do a startup, you have to register your logo or a symbol as like this brand for your startup. You have to register this picture, logo, symbol as you have created as your own creation as intellectual property as a trademark. So this trademark is also related to our intellectual property. It is the intellectual property related to our startup. If you want to start your startup, you have to create a logo. It gives a brand name to your startup. Now the geographical indication. What are the geographical indication? Some products which are man-made or some product which are natural one. They are attached with the geographical conditions of that product with their nature. At that time they are famous for that area, for that production. As like Guntur chilli, it is the chilli produced at the Guntur area. Kanchipuram silk sari is the man-made product, it is produced in the Kanchipuram. Kolhapur chappal, it is produced in the Kolhapur. And Basmati rice is produced in the Basmati area of Punjab. Then this type of geographical indications, if you want to register for your startup, you can register and do the such production so that the IP of this gives you the support to your startup. Now, plant variety. If you want to create a startup in seed, or if you want to do a startup in your nursery type business where there are different types of flowers on the same plant, at that time this gives a plant's breeder right to you by using the technology of the tissue culture technology, biotechnology, cutting seeds. So this production of the new seeds, this production of the new plant gives you a intellectual property, and if you want to do startup on that, it gives a boosting to your product. So that is the relation between intellectual property and the startup. We go to the next intellectual property, that's IC layout. Integrated chips are unique designs. If you design some app or if you design some equipment which is innovative one using the IC, and if you want to produce that as your startup, so layout of that product gives you the protection to use, to market and to produce it as a startup. So startup and intellectual property, that is IC layout, these are related to startups. Then what are the benefits of the intellectual property and startups? IPR can be assigned. If we have an intellectual property with us, we can assign it for the financial creation of the financial funds. It is the first benefit. If you want to do the startup, if you have 2 patents with you, you can one assign to the others for creating the finance, and second IP you can use for the production of that as a startup. IPR can be sold. If you have so many intellectual properties with you, then you can generate the money by selling the intellectual property. And also, if you want to gift some IP intellectual property with you to your friend to do the startup, then you can gift your intellectual property to that. These are the basic relation between the startup and IP management. How intellectual property is managed to have a good startup, to have a reputed startup, and to have a successful startup. So let us go toward the startup. After listening this, after knowing this, we can go toward the startup. Let us define the startup. Startup is a young company founded by one or more entrepreneurs to develop a unique product or service and brings to the market. If there is group or a single person, if they studied in the market what is the need of any business, or if they want to develop a business with different idea and different services, or if they want to give a unique product to the society, to the market they want to bring, then they can do the startup on that idea. that innovative idea. So it is a young company, just starting, willing to start for one or more entrepreneurs. Just wrong clicking for that. We will reach towards our first slide. Sorry. Then startup are usually, what are the startup then? Startups are usually begin with a small team. Means for startup, if you study some market need, then if you want to start a business as a startup in marketing or any type of services, then it usually begins a small team. Means we have to collaborate or we have to discuss with our friends, which is a very small team, and then limited resources. Means no any startup or no any businessman is having huge resources at the first time. So depending upon the limited sources, we have to think what business should be started, what marketing should be done, how we enter in the market. That is focus on disrupting. So what is available there, we can reach towards the customers. So this is the focus on reaching towards the customers. And existing market, what is the existing market which they are demanding, how they are having difficulty in that service. So all that studied by some group of small peoples, that is small team, and they try to creating entry new ones, and they start a business or service as a startup. It is very limited at the first time. Now, why startups are necessary? We are focusing on startup now here. It is necessary for the innovation. Means for doing any marketing, for doing any business, for doing any startup, you must have innovative idea in your mind. You have innovative type of product in your mind, and if you have innovative idea, if you have innovative things with you, then we can do a successful startup. These are the essential things. Then what are the job creation? It also support to the job creation. It may be starting, it may be small team, but after that you need more teams to collaborate, more peoples to help you as a partners of that. So it gives the job creation and gives also economic growth. Because of such business, they can start economically growing. And social progress. Once there is economical growth, then those who are in the product of the startup business, they are having a progress their future, and to build a prosperity society in the digital age. So to have a progressive society, there should be more than startup. So that startups are necessary, essential to have a prosperous society in this digital age, current age. After seeing the essentials of the startup, let us see the development of startup. Common objective of the startup. What are the common objective of the startup? Let us see one by one. Product development and launch. Means to have any startup, we have to think a product, we have to develop the product according to their need, and we have to launch that product. This is the first thing. And market penetration means if someone is doing the same business in the market, we have to reach towards that market or that beneficiaries by penetrating the market, that your product is more innovative, more useful, and having so many techniques to reach up to the customers. Then revenue generation. This is the revenue generation objective, because using this type of startups or starting these businesses, we can generate the revenue. Also customer acquisition and retention. We have to catch the customers, we have to keep them ourselves. If you do one type of business and if the customers are not satisfied, they will be not retained. So we have to collect, we have to take care of customers, and we have to retain our customers to have a good startup and to go the futures in the startup. And brand awareness and recognition. If your product is quality product, then your brand gets awareness and recognition from the society that this product is reliable product, we can purchase. This startup is giving a best product, people can do the publicity of that. scalability and the business. So because of the all this type of working, your growth of the startup gets increased and also get the scalability as per your plan. Then funding and investment. If you able to start a good startup, then someone can help you to invest in your startup. Someone can come ahead to give the funding to you because your product is innovative and have a capability to stay in the market as a startup. Partnerships and alliances. If someone want to your product is innovative, if you want to do a startup on that product, then the other person, those who are having the financial strong position, they come ahead for funding and partnership and alliances. They come ahead for you because they are knowing that this startup or this venture is going to progress in future and we have to do investment in that. We have to accept the partnership of that. Product or service innovation, this is also important. Product and service innovation in that area can give the more reputation to your startup. Social impact and sustainability. Your product is good and your product is up to reaching the society, then it has a social impact on that. At the same time, team building and talent acquisition. At the same time, you can develop your team so that it can be going growth. Now what is the startup and the students? Since students are, it's the webinar or national webinar where students are gathered here, joined here. So what is the relation between startup and students? Since fresh perspective and innovation, students always have in their mind fresh ideas and they can do innovation freshly. That is the talent in pipeline. Every student is having talent with him or her and they can do the startup very successfully because they are studying the what is the need of the society. Then resource efficiency, they have diverse skills offset. The students are from diverse fields, they are collecting studying together, so they are having knowledge of different types of areas. At that time they have the skills, so students are able to do the startup. Early bird ambassador, they get the name because of their very less age. They are always known as the early brand ambassadors. At the same time, community engagement and support, they get also the community engagement and support to them also. Let us go toward the startup as an example which are founded by the students. Means students are having potential to find to do the startup. Let us see few examples which are famous one. Flipkart. Flipkart is a business startup started by students. Ola Cabs is also started successful business from the students. At the same time, Zomato is also started by a student because you are knowing that this product and this service is very famous nowadays, so I have included here. At the same time, Infobelieve, Freshworks, BUJs, all these are startups, very successful startup today's in the market, and these are contributed by the students. Means students are having more innovative nature to solve the problems of the society, so that these are the very successful starters started by the students in this year. IP that can support your startup. So as we have said that patents, copyright, designs right, trademarks, all these are related to our startup because from innovative idea we can start a business as a patent. Patent can be used as a business idea. Copyright of your literature or app, design rights and trademarks, all these are supporting to our startup. If these are with us, then we can do confidently this business or the startup. IP right for the startup. What are the IP rights then for the startup? Trademarks names, brand names, logos, advertising product, investments, designs and website. These are the IP rights for the startup. Trade names. If you give a trade name and registered your trade name, then this product, one second, I am adjusting this YouTube. IP rights and startups means we are relating these IPs and startups. So trade names for any startup, we have to do a name, that is a trade name. We have to give a brand name. We have to create logos. We have to do advertise of our startup on the social media, innovations, designs and website. All these are used for the startup, for the growing of the startup, for registration of the startup and for doing the startups in this business. So all 7 which are screen which are seeing, trademarks, brand names, logos, advertising product, all these are intellectual properties related. We have to register this. We have to design our website, which is copyright. We have to design that product, it is the intellectual property. We have to do inventions for that. We have to advertise, that advertise is also intellectual property. We have to create logos for that, that is the intellectual property. So these are the IP rights for the startups. How it is management then? If you have intellectual property rights with you, if you want to start a startup on that, then how you manage it? It is the system that helps to manage intangible products such as creations of the mind and human intellect. Which idea you have for doing the startup and the business, that idea have to managed by you as the intellectual property, because that should not be known to others. Secondly, intellectual property information is about, you have to give what are the intellectual properties which have, on which you are going to start up, that should be given to the public, only titles, so that they should know that this product is having intellectual property and having innovation. Also we have to establish, monitor documentation of IP ownership and rights. If we have a product with you and then product, if it is not registered by you as intellectual property, then it can be used by the others, by the other persons. So at that time you have to register your intellectual property such that you have to protect that property. एक second. And then we have to handle the patents portfolio infringement, piracy and unauthorized use. If we have intellectual property, then it should be monitored by us, documented. It should be properly documented so that we get the ownership of that and the rights. Means if you are starting a startup, a business, and documents are not registered, then that knowledge can be stolen by others and you have not any rights to avoid that person for using that product or the document. So we have to handle the patent profiles, portfolios of the infringement. What is infringement? Infringement is just a duplication of a product. If you started some business and someone is duplicating for that, at that time you have to avoid such infringement, such piracy and authorized use. If you have the owner of that product, registered product, intellectual property product, then you can approach towards the court if someone is doing duplication of that. Now let us see importance of intellectual property management. Why it is important? It is important because we have to handle non-disclosure policies. What we knowledge we have on which we are doing the product, it should not be known to the others completely. Also, it helps to stay updated with competitors and avoid infringement and claims. Means if you have updated intellectual property policy with you, then it avoids competitors. Means no one can produce the product as like you, because you are the owner and you are knowing the idea of that. You can avoid infringement. I have said that you can avoid the infringement, and at the same time you have to create enable business to handle post insurance production. Means if someone is doing duplicate, someone is doing something wrong thing with your product, someone is using that product of you, then at that time you have to avoid such presentation or such using of that technology. By using the technology, so if we have such power to use that, then and then only we can use that powers. Then GOI, what is government is doing for us? Government of India has launched the SIPP to foster invention and creativity. So government is also doing some supportiveness towards it. Promotes awareness among startups and encourage IPR protection. So this type of facility is given by the government of India to promote the awareness among the startups. Means to have more and more startups and to encourage the innovation and protect the IPR intellectual property. Those they are having, they are going to be protected. Now issues with the startup. What are the issues with the startup? Hiring qualified employees, because we have to hire the qualified employee so that the startup can run successfully. Secondly, we have to develop innovative product or service. Means for any startup, if we have innovative idea, we have developed innovative product or innovative service, then and then only society can accept. Now rising capital. To have a capital, more and more capital investors we have to do. This is the issues with the startup. What are the things related to startup? Obtaining ventures capital funding. We have to start the startup by searching the venture capitals. So these are the issues with the startup. Now what are the IP status for the business? As a startup, if you are having your IP with you and it is a company asset. How it is company asset? If you are started your startup on your intellectual property which is innovative one, then you no need to do other assignment for creating the business, because your product is innovative. And unfortunately, if you have two more things, 2, 3, 4 intellectual properties with that, and you have started your startup on one intellectual property that is having the certificate with you, and if you are having some financial crisis, then you can use your intellectual property as a asset. You can sold it, you can assign it. So IP is the company asset, not physical. As like a physical property, our intellectual property is the company asset. Why IP is relevant to startup? How it is relevant to startup? So IP safeguards are core ideas upon which the startup is built. Means you are doing to start a business on an idea, you have to shape it with you as a core idea with you, because no one can use that without any permission. It helps to generate and maintain competitive advantages. Means your product is innovative, then there is no competitive available in the business, and it helps generate and maintain competitive advantages for that. And it helps product promote investment R&D in terms of time as well as capital. So once your product is innovative, you are doing startup basic depending upon intellectual property, then investment in the R&D can be raised as a capital for that. IP helps in generating revenue for the startup. If you have patent with you, intellectual property with you, on which you are doing the startup, then it helps venture of the startup, because if your product is innovative, then someone can add to give you some financial support. Also, IPR attracts potential buyers or investors in the market. If you are having intellectual property business, innovative idea in your mind, if you need a financial support, then investors can approach to you. IP assets secure investment means once you have intellectual property on which your startup is based, it is very secure to do to for the business to invest in that. Makes intellectual property protection as the priority. Means in the startup, first thing is that we have to protect our intellectual property through that idea, through that business. The first step is startup is to evaluate, decide IP rights involved in the business, which IP intellectual property we are using, on which our startup is based. So related to all that product, we have to give protection to that intellectual property. Means if you want to do the service as a software, that software should be protected such that no one can copy it. If you are starting a business or your startup on a equipment, it should be registered such that no one can duplicate it. So that we have to write all this policy of IP with our startup, so that everyone can know that this is a product which is registered one and no one can duplicate it. Register intellectual property rights. So for the startup, we have to register all our intellectual property which are using for our startup, so that it is used, it is registered before approaching the court and for enforcement agencies. Means before someone duplicating to that product, we have to do our strong policy such that we can go approach to the court and win to the case, because that product is properly registered in the intellectual property on which we are doing the startup. Now, do careful IP rights. Means if our startup is depends upon a idea, that should be protected carefully. Now, for any startup, it is dispensable that it does not violate the IP rights for other persons also. Means if we are doing some business or startup, at the same time it should not be copied from the others or violate the IP rights of any other. Means we have to start our startup on our own idea or our own innovation. IPR for startups. We have to create effective and policy strategies for the protection of IP rights for the startup, because that property, intellectual property which is related to our startup, that is properly managed so that we are the owners and they can created or acquired in future by startups. Now, what the agreements related to our intellectual property we have to define for that. Means we are doing some startup with our partners or businessmen as a alignment or the cooperation. At that time, which type of rights they should be used, which can be avoided, that should be strictly defined in the agreement, so that no one can use that idea or that patent or that intellectual property for other startup in among the persons, those who are as a partners also. So while doing the agreements of the partners of the startup business, then we have to give a perfect idea or we have to make documentation so that that IP should be our right. Startup and intellectual property protection. So for big companies which are sending large product, protect their IPRs. Any company which is leading in the market, it also careful to the intellectual properties related to their product. They are not having the loose policy, because no one can duplicate it, no one can reuse it without their permission, and no one can market it without permission by duplicating. So any company, maybe startup or many big companies, we have to take care of intellectual properties which they have as a product. On the other hand, startup with the limited capital and manpower fail to file their IPR security. Means at the starting of the startup, without caring of that protection of the IPR, it can give problem to the startup. We have to first of all secure our IPR policy for the startup. Strategies to implement. What to do? We have to do. We have to keep employment of the work separate from your idea. Those who are working in your startup, that employees should not know what you are doing to product, how your technique is of that product. Otherwise, what happens? That employee can learn everything about you and he can start with new name, some new additions, new product on the same thing. Don't let others people claim ownership of your IP or your company. Once you have registered it on your name, and while doing the agreements with other companies or other partnership, you have to take care of your IP. Blindly, if you have given rights to other persons, then they can use your IP for their product. So at that time we can't do. So while doing the agreement, they should be very careful for startup peoples that they should take care of the rights which they have with their IP. Have contributors assign their IP to company. So contributors can assign the IP to the company, because if someone is contributor, someone is having new idea, it can be assigned for your company. Evaluate your core assets and decide what type of protection you need. Means if your product is innovative, so every innovative thing of that should be protected. Suppose you want to produce a pen, ball pen as a startup, then its structure, external features of that all should be registered. Because if you want to forget to write some newly features which are innovated by you in that document, then someone can do the product and say that this innovativeness of this product is of ours. So at that time we have to decide our complete policy that which we have developed a product that should be totally protected. Now strategies for you implement. Make sure that you have a great name. You have to give an attractive name to your startup. Patent strategy should be cost effective and not avoided. We should have to keep the patent strategy with us. Take care using open resources softwares. If we are using for startups open resource softwares, they can stolen our idea, they can stolen our software or idea on which our product is depending. Suppose Zomato is, we are using this for our daily product, or we are booking Ola. So Ola, Zomato, all these are software companies, they have no any physical asset with that. And if you that company purchases some software or freely available software, then it can damage the software or that program of that company on which it depends. So we have to take care of the open resource software to avoid. Be careful hiring new employees. When we are hiring new employees, then we have to take care that they should follow the rule of your startup. Otherwise, they can stolen our idea or the business. Open resources. Then trade secrets, we have to keep all the trade secrets of the startup person with us. If they are known to others, one can start the business on your idea. And managing and monitoring IP assets. What IP assets we have, they should be managed so that we are the complete owner of that. They should be managed like this. And IP risk allocation exercise. There is risk of IP rights. You need to be first file the application, and then you have to secure your IP rights, and then you can start your intellectual property or your startup. Timing IP strategy. You have to start at the starting time. You have to register your IP so that there should be no any further complication for the intellectual property registration for the startups. Now there is an example of the fine to Samsung. Means Apple company has fined more than $1 billion to the Samsung, because Samsung have copied some crucial features of the Apple, and this is the infringement. so that if there are two startups, someone is duplicating some product and some employees from the first startup is leaved and joined to the second startup or second company, so he or she can stolen the knowledge and software and start some other business. At that time we have to create our ownership of such that we have to prove we are the owner of that software, we are the owner of that feature. At that time only we can approach towards the court. IP, intellectual property, are key economic assets. If we have intellectual property rights with us and we have some patents, if you started the startup on that patent, then it is the economic asset. It can give our economical funding from others. So it needs to build IP strategy in the early stage. Means when you are doing the starting a startup, at the starting position also, at the starting position you have to do your all IP to be registered properly, and it will enable to force their IP assets for the growth. Means in future growth, if there is some problems arise with that, if you are owner of that, you can approach toward the courts and to the other things related to that. Now safeguarding intellectual property. So intellectual property, it should be safeguarded easily and in the beginning phase of your the startup and business. So it is at the beginning step, and we have to develop the IP strategy such that there should be no any product can be duplicated by the others, or no or knowledge can be stolen by the others. And also we have to minimize the risk for developing the IP, because if you register the IP, there is no need to take care of other for the stolen also. And also we have to define our IP strategy such that for a decision making. What is decision making? If such product is having good in the market, but still it should be improved, it should be improved, then at that time we have to design our IPR such that we can file, we can generate again IPR, new IPR for new design as a demand of the company or as the demand of the customers. What are the risks of the opportunity IPs? Risk for the poor IP: if you have not IP registered for your startup, then it gives a high cost to
Sir,
failure.
sorry for interruption. Your slides are not appearing.
No problem, it's now okay. Last slide I am reaching here, no problem, thanks. So this is the startup and IPs what I have shared here. Thank you to you all. If any questions from the students, I can answer it. Thank you.
So it is my humble request to all of you. Please, if you have any query, any questions regarding the IP management or IPR, session is open for your queries. Sir, I think there is no questions.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So we are considering that you don't have any kind of query or questions. So now it's the time of. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts, ideas, experience on patent, design, copyright, because you have already holded 7 patents on your credit. So you very nicely, beautifully described the concept of startup, like very nicely correlated with the youngster, because youth are the founder of startup, and how the startup is useful for student, and IP, intellectual, the meaning of intellectual property rights, and how to manage the IP, and which kind of precautions should we take while when we have an innovative or creative idea, with the help of very renowned examples which we all know. So it is very easy to understand all of us with the help of those examples. So, on behalf of Srimati Radhadevi, Goenka College for Women, Akola, I express my sincere gratitude to Honorable Resource Person Dr. M. BETKAR sir, who is uh, contributing an extraordinary contribution to enhance the knowledge of the globe. As sir is organizing, daily sir is organizing webinar, international conferences, national level webinars, etc. So sir, you are a great mentor and leader for me, ideal for me. I am taking motivation and guidance through your guidance, through your webinars also. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, madam. For the participants, I would like to inform you that which series that you have just mentioned by our Dr. Rupa Gupta madam, she was the resource person of that. We have invited her also. So all the contribution goes to the resource person, those who are joined in our series for completing more than 1,000 events, national and international. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. In the same way, I want to express my acknowledgement to all the participants, all the research scholars, faculty members, students who has participated in this webinar and enhanced their knowledge. Thank you so much. So with this, we are taking here leave.
Thank you.
So I request, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I request all the participants, please fill the feedback form. Now I am going to share the feedback link in the chat box. Thank you.